Good evening, everyone. Widen out just a bit there. Not much excitement tonight. I was at the Pennsylvania Farm Show most of the day today, and we got snow, so we had to deal with that when I come home. But as always at the farm show, the tops and snowmen is pretty much all I made. I made a couple little itty bitty bowls just for something different to do. But I was pretty much, I don't know how many I took, a dozen or so pieces. Hard maple to make tops, make tops. That's pretty much down to nothing until I come home. So that's what we get to work on tonight and the rest of the week as I get time. Because I don't have any, unfortunately, I don't have any like 8/4 or 2 1/4 or something like that stock on hand to just cut up stuff and go from square to round. So these are baseball bat blanks. Been around forever. I'm just taking and making them smaller in diameter. I mean, you can make tops this size, but when you're dealing with a mini lathe, it just doesn't necessarily cooperate. And it's not sitting on a very, it does have a ton of legs, but sitting on a wooden platform that has a tendency to rock a little bit, which was kind of a pain. Some of this stuff has the worms have gotten to some of this stuff. I might have to run the dust collector a bit. As you can see, there's a cloud of dust flying. I've got a big section of worms in that one, worm holes. So we definitely got to get past all that. I really want to get down to about 2 1/4. Okay, there's still some there. Yeah. I kind of have a thought. You might make this a little faster. If I use my big skew and do a peeling cut with that, then it might make it faster. It's the problem with going and doing this stuff is a lot of the stuff's still in the bag from the day. And if you use your skew for nothing else than this, skew does a wonderful job. Very fast, very efficient on taking something. You can even do it with square corners. There's a snowman and stuff that I make, like over there at the farm show or anywhere else, that we would go and demonstrate. Just, it makes it really quick, and people find it very interesting. It still has worms in it. You gotta go a little bit further. It just wouldn't make a very nice looking top. The easiest, to me, the easiest way is just to peel it down, quarter, 3/8 of an inch, whatever. This is a radius skew, but it's sort of, even though they're radius, they're sort of flat in some ways at the long point. And you can peel straight across too. I think maybe we got past our wormies. That's the majority of it. That'll work. I'm going to grab another tool from the other bench after we knock the drill on the ground. And have it sitting on the corner of the workbench. The more of this kind of stuff that I do ahead of time just makes it a whole lot easier when I'm over there. I'm not farting around trying to make something round. Just put a little tenon on it. They're going to be small ones. They're only about 1 5/8, but that's fine. Smaller ones do just as well. I got my other bag here instead of sitting them down. Just throw them in the bag ready to go because I'm going back again on Friday this week. It shouldn't be quite as busy, I don't think, on Friday. At least that's my thought. Because the kids should be in school and that kind of stuff, so don't think it'll be quite so busy. Not too much junk sitting around. This one here has got a big split. So this one has a crack over here. So let's see. It's still about 2 3/8. So here's some magical logic. We'll go with that 2 3/8. So 1 3/16 would be center. So if I go center in that way, it's going to be pretty far out of whack, but it should get rid of that crack and give me more of the size that I want. At least that's the thought plan. So 1 3/16 on that edge. See whether it works or not. That also might get rid of some more of the bugs. This would be like some of that good old off-center kind of turning. And probably could have done that with the other one too. Would have helped me get rid of that, because the worms only go after it on one side most of the time. I mean, they will eventually go the whole way through it, but this probably will make this a little slower. Once I get the big part of it off, I should be able to speed it back up. According to the ghost image that I see, I still got probably a half an inch to take off. See the worm dust flying. So we've cut about halfway around. Pretty good. Better than what I thought it might have been. So let's see whether our skew will peel that. It should, because now we were able to actually double the speed. As you can see, the skew is actually much faster to use than the roughing gouge. It may not give us a very super smooth finish, but that doesn't really matter. It's just more interesting in getting the material away. We're still not round. Not quite. And we're still a little bit too fat. Should look to see whether I got rid of my crack. Yep. So that simple little thing of had to crack, the crack was only on one side. So that got rid of my entire crack. And I was basically able to salvage a piece of wood that otherwise may have went to the firewood part. Still some worms, but can't have everything. So we're just a little over 2 inches in diameter. Got some down and dirty work. Once again, we have another piece that's got wormholes on that side. So I think we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to try and get rid of as many of the wormholes as what we can. And now I want to end up about 2 1/4. We'll go 2 3/6 or 1 3/16 that direction. 3 1/4 inch and then 5/8 on there. At least that'll keep our little vermin's holes on one side. It probably would be a simple, good thing to do to set a compass, maybe. I'll just do this on one end. I'll put that down to live center end. Not a real good compass either, but once again, I'll get rid of at least more of the worms. We need it on the fat side. And let's see. I'll turn our speed down because we don't know how wonky it's going to be. I don't know if the steel will peel this or not. No, it's going to be, if I could get it, let's see how bad it's going to shake things. Yeah, I get it fast enough. Still not quite round. I'm going to keep the tool rest fairly close. Tool rest is probably a little bit below center, but this is a bigger diameter, so now we should be in balance and we can get our speed back up to where I want it. Make this cut more efficient and quicker. Go right down to my line now. There's still going to be some little worms in this one, but be okay. And it looks to me like we're still a little bit bigger than what I want. Yeah. I kind of like doing the little bit smaller tops. The one when you're doing it like I was today at your demonstration, it takes little bit less time to do a top that's only 2 inches in diameter. So we'll just take a little bit more off of this. It was a good thing that I decided to practice a little bit the other day. Well, for one, it was practice and get all the stuff out that I needed to be able to make tops. I made, I don't know, half a dozen or so throughout the week. This is like a kind of like a little bit of a family affair kind of a thing. You know, they show up, and kids always want something for free. A lot of them were actually sort of fascinated as to what you were doing, and they'd get to pick the colors that they wanted. But a lot of families would be two. So the first handful of them that come up, my wife was along with me, and she was sitting there talking with the people and whatnot. And those 6 or 8 that I had already done went by in a pretty good hurry. Gotta cut some more blocks. And a measuring device. I'm off camera a little bit, but have to live with that for a moment. Some people would not like how I already had one sitting there. Because if you can hear, you know what the sound is. That's my chop saw. And I am cutting a round block of wood on my chop saw. Most people would really cringe on that, but these things are actually pretty round. Chop saw has a pretty good sized fence on it. The sliding compound miter, so I've never had to try and get a hold of one. I also don't try and make a real big heavy plunge cut. I just do it in little bites. Here's one that's one of the reasons that one. These are like I say, baseball bat blanks that didn't make the grade, and that's why they wouldn't make the grade because there's a knot in it. So they become firewood for those people. This one's actually fairly clean, so you can just mark centers and go from there. And it is high grade hard maple. These are professional grade bats, the bat blanks that they make. It's a sawmill. I would assume they're still making them. It's been quite a few years since we've been there. Company's still in business, so I would imagine that they're still making these because it was a good part of their business, I think. And it was really quite economical. Like I said, they sold it as firewood. So it was very inexpensive at that time. I think it was, I guess it's almost 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago when we were there. And they sold these were in a bundle, metal banded bundle. And they were like $15 a bundle, which I couldn't even get it all in my pickup. Like I say, it is hard maple, so it's heavy. I don't overload my truck. Hold on. These billets started out at 34 inches, I think is what they made them. 34, 35 inches long. And the interesting part that a lot of times if you would go to a store, Rockler, Woodcraft, or one of those, a lot of those places will have what they call baseball bat blanks, but it's a square billet that's been milled. Well, that's not how. I told one guy at Woodcraft, I said, you know, that's not how they mill baseball bat blanks? Yes, it is. I'm like, we can go up the road here about 45 minutes, or from there it's probably only like half an hour. I said, they would disagree with your statement of this is how they mill baseball bat blanks, because they actually split them with like a giant sized log splitter. That way they get all straight grain. So a lot of them, that kind of made it troublesome for us, for me, was the fact that there was a lot of these blanks were like a wedge, and they didn't make the grade right off the bat, so they just threw them into the firewood. Well, that was a lot of work to get them from, you know, a wedge type shape to something usable. Most of them I cut on the bandsaw, screwed around, cut bandsaw, chainsaw, to get them to something that was reasonably square. But if you go putting them on the lathe, a lot of these, since they were split, a lot of these wanted to throw kind of some big chunks off at you. And they were way out of balance. So you're trying to do this in a slower fashion. So it took me a fair amount of time to get them, but I have quite a number of smaller billets, smaller blanks down in my utility shed. Which now that everything is of age, that it's used, you know, it's dry, I'm finding I don't have as many of them as what I thought I did. My wife would kill me if I said I was going back up and getting another truckload of wood. I got a nick in my skew. I can see a little line up here. So we're down to our 2 1/4 line, if my compass is where it belongs. A little lower than that. It'll take just a little bit more off. That gives us a nice, clear little billet. Once again, this one's got a lot of wormholes in it. So I think what we'll do is we'll cheat and make this one off center again. That'll get rid of more of the worms. This is just a really good use for these things. It's also going to help us with that knot. The knot's over on the fat side. A little bit of, that's probably a little bit of curly grain in there, but I did get some from them when we were up there. That's the reason I went up, was to get some See what they had in some curly, like curly maple. And they did have some. So I do have some of these that are actually curly maple. And they were actually reasonably priced compared to 3-inch thick curly maple. And they were even, those there were kiln dried. This cut is just an arcing cut. I'm starting with the handle low. Pick up the cut, it's P1 it all. All I'm doing is raising the handle as I go in. Can't say that I've ever had a catch doing it this way, but you watch some of the so-called skew masters, they all will talk about doing things like this with the skew. Just very efficient. Some woods don't necessarily like it so well. Like some of the oaks and stuff like that that's prone to chipping. They're just about round. Still got some of the worms in there, but I don't think I'm getting rid of those. They don't run the whole way through, so. That's probably close to our 2-inch mark. Close enough. Say it does have some worms in it, but oops. You need a tenant. So when you stop and think about it, or at least how I was taught to use a parting tool, basically the same thing, because I'm taking the parting tool and I'm arcing towards the center. A fine cut would be straight in, but I'm more interested in removing material. So once again, we got a nice piece that's got our little vermin holes in it. So we'll come in somewhere about there. And as you can see, we're not being really overly exacting kind of a thing, because it doesn't really matter because we're going to make it round. It's just how out of balance it's going to be. And the ones I had with me today, I made them short, made them only about 3 inches long. Because of the fact that I got that one pretty far out of whack. That'll be alright. We'll just have to take some off with the roughing gouge instead of the spew down here at this end. Doing the tops is also a good way of practicing. We're trying to figure out some of the texturing tools. I have one more blank to turn around, and then we'll turn a couple tops and call it a night. I still have to go clean my truck off because I got to go to work tomorrow. But you can sort of see the time difference in what I was doing compared to using the skew and the peeling cut. Of course, now I got it sort of more so in balance. I should be able to speed it up. This is one of them places where you go to a speed that I get a vibration out of it, and you go a little bit faster. If your lathe has digital speed control, you can get it past the point of the vibration will balance itself out. Man, this is really dusty. Worms. Gotta love them. This is a 1-inch skew. Probably more than the most amount of time that I spend using this is to do this. Because I generally do smaller work with the skew. So I'm not the highly skilled of some of those people you see on Instagram that use it day in and day out. But I'm also not trying to make my living doing it that way. So, out there. And if you were to watch any of Richard Raffin's stuff now that he's gone, he would call that the low peeling cut. Like I said, once again, it's very efficient. Still have some worms in it, but gonna have to live with it. One more blank, and we're gonna do this in the same way. Now that I'm looking at it a little harder, maybe I should have done it a little differently. It'll be all right. Certainly aren't getting a real exacting kind of markings on it, but like I say, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. We'll just start out with a spindle roughing gouge a little bit. Trying to get past some of the bounce. Now that we got the majority of the weight off of it. It's still got a little vibration to it, but it's not bad. Yeah, a tiny bit left. Wormholes going through there, but not too bad. Not compared to what it was. So we'll take another 1/4 inch or so off of it. And you can get a pretty good cylinder without too much trouble. And we got a foot deep pile of shavings right at my feet, but that's all part of the fun of wood turning, is making a mess. Now we can get rid of the dust collector though. And like I say, we're not gonna do this real late tonight. Like I say, I still have some things to do. Nahone is somewhere over in the bag, I think. Yeah. Because that skew definitely is needing a sharpening. Huh, dust on the glasses. Oh, welcome, Raiders. We're just making a mess as usual tonight. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's good. We're sending a snowstorm up your way, though, in case you didn't know that. Now, maybe it'll probably miss you. It'll probably be too far east for you, but. So now we'll go ahead and make a top. Means I gotta go grab another tool or two. I don't know that it's necessarily, they're not really considering it, at least here, they didn't consider it a nor'easter. It's close, but it started here, I don't know, early this afternoon. And I don't know, we got about 5 inches maybe. Oh yeah. First snow, well, I don't know about you guys, but it's for us, it's first snowstorm that we've gotten for the season. And, well, that makes sense. Let's move some things around here once. Half an inch or half a foot? Move some things around here just a little bit. I'm here in Pennsylvania. We haven't really been getting hardly any snow the last couple years. I cleaned some of the bug poop off my face shield so I can see. Macaform, did I see you got yourself a big lathe now? Oh, okay. So what I do is I take the bevel and I rub it over that point. That sort of smashes it and rounds it down a little bit. I just watched a video a little bit ago, since I knew I was going to this event. And it was one of the, I guess you'd say, sort of one of the professional type people. I would call him professional. He makes his living turning. And he does a lot of spindle kind of work. He does a lot of like ballisters and that type of stuff. So he's very familiar with doing the spindle type work. And his turning club, like a lot of other turning clubs, make tops for, you know, the kids and benefits and whatnot. So he was on demonstrating some of his techniques, and that was one of the things he talked about, was doing the sort of burnishing and flattening out that end. So when we go to our texturing tools, we need our speed to be down, at least for some of them. Mechaform would know what this tool is. It's just a simple knurling tool. So you got to be patient with it. And put your visor down so it's not in front of the camera. And then we can use the wheel tool. And we'll put some spirals in it. And this, you have to be patient with this and kind of go slow with it. Well, they don't. Give it a minute here. They'll pop out when I put some color to them. I kind of ran over my spirals a little bit. That's okay. So we can use markers, basically. That's what I use. That's what everybody uses for them. we also could put a little groove. I do have a little point tool that I could be doing this with, but the skews here, I'll use that, and we'll sort of highlight in between them a little bit. Bring our speed back down. We don't want to, these are actually some cheap markers that kids would have. And they're water-based, so it makes them a little bit more, I don't know, eco-friendly maybe to the kids. I don't know. That's kind of what makes it fun to do what I was doing at the farm show today with the kids coming over and watching you. It's like, what are you making? You tell them you're making a top, and a lot of these young kids, I was surprised how many of these younger generation kids actually even knew what a top was. But whether they did or whether they didn't, and then we'll highlight it one more time. A little black. This one is not a cheap marker. This is a little bit more expensive of a marker, but it also has a very small point. So when I stop, now the texturing looks like something. I got to get rid of. It was pretty good. It was, I mean, I don't get to walk around. I was, obviously you're asking and you know what it is. We're with the Forestry Association, the Woodmobile as they would call it. So we were right inside the entrance there at Maclay Street, right by the butter sculpture. So that's pretty much there was, you know, a smaller food court there. I did walk around and got something to eat later. I'm going to bring my tailstock back up, and this is what I was doing, because that, like I say, that lathe is not very heavy and not very secure. Mine I could probably get away with turning that far off of the tailstock. But that one today, the little one that we use for the club, that much of an overhang, plus I have, mine is set up for 1 1/4 threads. That one's 1-inch thread, so I have another collar piece that's probably adds that much more. So this piece would be that further away from the headstock. So you get vibration out of it, and it's very rude and all that good stuff. And the other thing that the little mini lathes have, that the big lathes don't really have, they put a small motor on them, which is okay. I mean, that's what they're designed for. But on the fastest pulley, then it'll run at kind of the speeds that I would like to turn at. But then it doesn't go slow enough. You know, it'll run up, I don't know what it will do, probably close to 3,000 RPMs, maybe over 3,000 at that point. Well, I can't use my texturing tools or the markers at the high speeds, because it'll just destroy the markers. And it doesn't do any justice to the texturing tools. Because I have the ones that I was using, I mean, none of them have bearings in them. They all just have a brass shaft in them or something along those lines. So they would Oh, I was gonna say I'm not at the farm show now. I can actually do this easier way. Normally I would sand this just this edge, just to make it nice and smooth. But once again, we're not allowed to sand. We're not supposed to be sanding anything over there. It's the farm shows in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. If you know where that's at, central Pennsylvania. Harrisburg being the capital. It's something that's been going on for years. I'm just making myself some room to get in here, and I'll actually start the next one while I'm at it. So now we can drop our speed back down to the 400 or so. Where are you at? Okay. That's not that overly close, but yeah, that's fine. It all depends on what my work schedule is. Right now, my work schedule is Sunday through Thursday, and we're not going to get in there with that one. Let's do it differently. Well, I guess a lot of that stuff, like everything else, it's kind of, it does okay. That's a small one. I do have a bigger one. I should get the bigger one out. Maybe I'll get the bigger one out. I just took the small one along today, but let's go in more on a straight, and then we'll tip it over a little bit. I like to say that the slower I move, the deeper and the better, sort of the better spiral I will get. This does not work very well on anything that would be soft. I think I tried it today on some, because I make the two things I do at this show for the most part would be these tops, and I'll do snowmen out of a piece of 2x4. I'll take a 2x4 and dirt cheap, and I had leftovers from construction project anyhow, so take them and cut them into 1.5-inch squares. And there's actually lots of different ways you can do them. I like this simple way myself. There's people that take and use flat stock, like lumber, drill a hole and put a piece of dowel rod through it, but that also causes you to have end grain and different stuff like that. But I know somebody with a guy from Ron Brown's Best. I mean, that's how he does the tops, and he does a ton of, at least he used to. He used to be part of the woodworking shows that traveled around the country, and that's what he would make at the woodworking shows. Of course, he was, in the same token, he was selling a lot of some of these texturing tools, which is actually where I got some of them from him. So So what did we do? We did orange and red. But he made them out of the flat stock wood. It would be sort of cheaper in some ways. He was actually even making his own dowel rod. I think it was Lee Valley had the tool that you could make your own dowel rod. And then it would be very, very specific to a size. At least that's what he said. I'm like, that's, to me it just seemed like a lot of extra work, but he was with doing the woodworking shows and stuff. He was doing a couple thousand of these a year. Well, yeah, I don't really remember how much that. I don't remember how much that tool was. I want to say it was in the $40 to $50 range, and it wasn't very big. It was something that we would forget how he told me he did it. I think somehow or another it actually would fit on his headstock, because the headstock on a wood lathe goes straight through. And well, this was, unfortunately, that was actually quite a number of years ago that I got this stuff from him. So, knowing a lot of the other stuff anymore, it probably is not that inexpensive anymore. Yeah. Well, actually, the woodworking show, and that's exactly what they're called, is the woodworking shows. They've actually come back, or at least they're trying to come back. I think my fine tip green marker is shot. And we'll go a different color. Because we used to go, that was kind of like a traditional kind of thing that my dad and my uncle and all of us, I would take off on the Friday or whatever, and we would go down. It's a 3-day show. The one that's close to us is in Baltimore, Maryland. And actually, I said something to my dad about going this year, and he said no. And then he called me on Friday or Thursday and said, "Are we going tomorrow?" I'm like, "You said no." So I already made other plans to do other things. And I said, when I looked over the list of, companies that were going to be there, it's like nobody, there again, pre-pandemic, there would be a whole bunch of, it's in a convention, it's not really a convention center, it's a cow palace in Baltimore, Maryland. And it's a very big, very big area, very big rooms and whatnot. And, the place would be full of people, people selling all kinds of woodworking stuff, as well as turning stuff. But, you had 2 years worth of, nothingness because of the pandemic kind of crap. So I guess now, and the woodworking symposiums are having the same trouble because, all these people got so used to the fact that they can do all their stuff just as easily online, and maybe even more so maybe make more money at it doing it online. They certainly don't have to travel. So, you know, a lot of them are not coming to any of the shows anymore, which kind of, you know, makes it tough for any of these shows, because, you know, they got to rent the venue and all that stuff. And actually, there's been a couple of the wood turning symposiums that have been canceled. The one that we really like to go to, which is in Virginia, they had to cancel theirs. They only do it every 2 years. And they had to cancel. They canceled theirs 2 years ago because they couldn't get any vendors to come. And that's according to the people that run it. They're like, that's where we make our money. Is the, you know, the price to. Whoa. Better slow that down a little bit. I don't really want it to break off while it's still held by the tailstock, and it did anyhow. No bugger. Wasn't supposed to do that. That means I had to sand this end a little bit. So that has sort of made some of the things that, some of the stuff that I like to go to and participate in now are not necessarily happening. So there's our bottom, and there's our top. Colorful, little texture. If you really, really wanted to be super fancy with these, I guess I should get it in the right frame so you could see it. I've seen people take, you know, if you're making something worthwhile, I'll put it that way, like a lidded box or something on top of a lidded box, and you put this kind of texturing on them, you could actually use the wood dyes and dye that kind of stuff. And then you could use some grain filler and fill all the texturing up with the grain filler in a different color. And it would really look super sharp. But that's one. Can't do it over my lathe, but it does spin okay. So it looks like I could have shortened that piece of wood up a little bit. Because I'm probably still only going to get 2 out of that piece. Like I said before, all I'm doing is sort of smashing that end down a little bit and rounding it over just a little bit. So there's not such a point. Right, pretty much. And I gotta move this camera back a bit so you can see what's going on back there. So let's get because I do have the knurling tools in a bigger version as well. Just thinking I had 2. Oh, they like it. They're all about, you know, standing there and watching this, you know. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. They were kind of fascinated with it, and there was some of it, you know, you end up with half a dozen kids standing there. It's like, well, you know, it takes like 10 or 15 minutes to make one. So like I say, my wife was there and she's like, I'll just give them, she got a little piece of paper and gave them numbers. Because they don't, you know, mom and dad's not going to stand there for an hour, so each one of their kids or whatever can get one. So we'll do the same little knurling. This is a Mechaform could probably tell you a lot more about this than what I can. There's different sizes in knurling wheels. Now where did I lay my little one? There's my little one. I'll try and show you the difference. So we have, of course, this is narrower and finer teeth. This is bigger teeth, wider, much heavier tool. This is the one I probably should have had along today because this gives it a much deeper knurling. I also have the same size tool in the fine as well. But, you know, there again, like I say, it was, you know, doing this today was more about, you know, how quick can you do some of this stuff or whatever. Yeah, and it's you know, it's very, very simple. It's just basically embossing it. This is a what's its proper name? This tool makes a lot of noise. So if you're one of the people that uses earbuds, you might want to pull them out for a second because this squeals like a little pig because this is going to overhang the tool rest by a whole bunch, and this is just a piece of simple steel. It really doesn't even isn't sharpen, but it'll squeal and bounce up and down like crazy. And it'll give you a different look. It sort of gives you like more of like a bumpy kind of a look. As far as I'm concerned, it's not. There again, the guy I was watching demonstrate that, he liked it, but you know, there again, he uses it a lot. Yeah, that's technically what it is. It's a chatter tool. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't trying to blow somebody's eardrums out. So I just split the chatter tool. The chatter tool he was using was actually like a diamond point, like this type of a shape. And I do have another cutter for it, so if I get time this week, I might play around and like grind or something with it. What color I used the green the last time, so let's use a red, a purple. One young boy, I said, "What colors do you like?" "Well, I don't know." So I handed him some. I have a whole bin full of colors, even though some of these are actually duplicates. But I'm like, "How about a hot pink?" He looked at me like I had two heads. I'm like, "Well, you don't like pink?" "Oh no, boy." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, I like pink." On something like this, I said, it makes it really stand out. And I probably should have a little bit more. I think the last one of these I made this afternoon was a lady that would have been, I don't know, I'm not good with judging ages. So the chatter tool gives you a different, there again, depending on what I do to it, gives you a little bit different pattern. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's different. And I do try and go back, try and remember to go back and, because I did put the little grooves in there. So it's always good if I can go back and highlight them. So the little, the black highlighting on it really makes them, I don't know, it makes them sort of pop out a little bit more, I think. So this one, I probably could get away with not bringing the tailstock up, but it'll eliminate some of the vibration. Gotta remember I'm back home, because today with that lathe it was the whole way down as low as it would go to do the texturing part, and then it was the whole way up to do the rest. And I don't quite need 3,500 RPMs to do this. Not that it wouldn't make it a little faster. It also makes it a little quicker to have a little bit more of a disaster. I guess we'll try and make a little bit longer of a handle. Although the guy that I watched, he said keep the handles short. That they'll work a little bit better. Can also make these a little bit less of a cone. But I'm not going to get a third one out of that piece, so I might as well just let it. So I think we could go a little bit deeper there. Okay. So here's where it becomes a little bit more challenging when you go back over on this side. When I was doing these last year, I was only decorating one side of them, or 2 years ago when I did them at the farm show. And after watching this guy that does a lot of these like this, he was actually doing them the opposite, doing them the same way I am right now. I would do the handle on the top and then cut off this part of the cone. I was cutting it off as I parted it off, and it didn't necessarily give me the tip that I should have had. So I mean, this is definitely better, but the downfall here is going to be, well, maybe I might be able to get in it and do the knurling up here at the top. Without running my fingers into the chuck or something. I had to speed a little bit too fast for it. That's why I wanted to bounce around on me a little bit. Like I say, they only like the speed for that is about 400 or 500 RPMs, because it's not, like I say, there's no bearing in there, so it's just a bush, or that one there is probably just a shaft, really. I'd have to play with that. Matter of fact, while I'm thinking of it, we will. I have two different, actually I think there's 3 different wheels for this one. see where I'm holding it at. We have this is sort of the fine wheel. This one is a little bit coarser. There's also one that's pointed. I don't have the pointed one. This actually came with these two wheels. And unfortunately, this stuff here is actually kind of pricey. And there's not many people, not many of the tool manufacturers make them because this is not a tool that's going to wear out. I mean, these wheels, I guess you could wear out, but they tell me you could just take a diamond hone and hone all these to make them back into a razor sharp point. But other than that, I mean, the tool itself is not going to wear out. I mean, it's going to last for a lot of years. So I'm going to get in there, and I got to remove a little material first. Because the one that has bearings in it is made by Sorby, and I just looked at it just out of curiosity the other week, and it's like 200 and... Well, I actually do have a homemade one that I got from a fellow wood turner years ago, and I should work with it some more, but their tolerances here aren't exactly very good. But I mean, it does work. But this little one, you know, this little one has some slop in it. Maybe it has just as much in it, but I've managed to figure out how to use this one. So this is kind of the one I'm been sticking with. We'll see whether that sort of give us a different... You really can't see it. No. It gave us a different texture. It wasn't really cooperating very well. It wanted to bounce around on me more so than the finer tooth did. So I'm going to say I probably like the finer tooth better. Seemed to cooperate better, but I'd have to try it. Maybe we'll play around a little bit on that end down there. It's not enough. There's not enough material left there to make another top. Well, technically that's what I should be working on tonight. But you mean the wheel? I don't know about that. Oh, well, yeah. Absolutely. I wouldn't see why not. Well, you're the metal guy. I mean, I wouldn't see why you couldn't make them out of aluminum. But you'd spend a whole lot more time making it out of aluminum than what I am out of wood. So pink. I like the bright colors. The green is crapped out. I'll do pink and purple since we only got two texturings. These markers here are actually good markers. These are the Tombow markers. which is a little bit, kind of a little bit pricey to be doing what I'm doing with them, but I got them from the guy that at the show that year. He actually had a pretty good price on them, but they were still, I don't know, probably $30, something like that, for whatever, a dozen colors. So I mean, they're not cheap to be screwing around with something like this, but okay. I can finish this off. The other thing was using hard maple. I guess as long as I do my part right, as far as the tool control and the bevel support and all that good stuff, this stuff will cut super clean. Like you sanded it with about 800 grit sandpaper. This one we're not going to break off though. Slow it down a little bit. I wonder, let's try that once. It's still left a little, tiny little nubbin on the top. The reason I don't want the little nubbin on this top, really want that to be nice and round and smooth, is because the top will spin if it's done correctly. I don't think I have any board or anything over here that would be smooth enough. And I'm sure it won't stay on the lathe bed. Let's go back to overhead. Someday maybe I'll be rich and famous and get a switch or two rather than going back to the keyboard all the time, but this works for now. So, I mean, there's what the top looked like. Like I say, the bigger coarser wheel did not, I'll show you on this piece, it didn't give me quite what I wanted. So, I mean, it spins fine and dandy like that, but a top will actually, if we can get it right, will spin, if, like I say, if that end is done right and that end is not quite done right, it will actually spin just as well on this top as what it does on the bottom. So we're still not quite getting what I would like out of it. But so that's 2 done for next week, or for Friday. I shouldn't say next week because the week is halfway done. So let's go back to the end view. And we'll just play around a little bit with the strictly texturing on the end. Texturing on end grain is really really where it's at. It works much better on the end grain surface than it does to do it on side grain, at least for me. Some of them guys, I can zoom way in there. That's as far, no, that's as far in as I can go. So we'll just clean up our surface, and that's got some wormholes in it, but we'll live with that part. But squashing the end down does make a serious difference on that. So there's our 500 RPM, thereabouts. We'll try out the homemade one first. There again, that wheel is a little bit coarser than the other one. If I go in straight as well, or sort of straight, it'll give me another texture too to go with it. There again, it won't necessarily pop out. So we'll do everything with this one. So now if I go way over on it, you have to be patient with these and try and move in a consistent sort of fashion. So if we take and highlight them, tighten the tool rest, it does help. Just to separate them a little bit. And then give them a little color. This is, to me, this is where for me I can learn something just by virtue of just playing around with the different tools, the different textures. Some of these textures like a little bit more speed to put the marker on, because then it just floats across the top rather than being able to sink down into the texture part. So that gave some, could use some little black highlights in there yet. To separate it. So that makes it, the black highlights makes it pop even more so. If I wanted to fill those in with some grain filler, then I would have to actually seal that surface with something or other, and then wait for that to dry and go back and do something a little bit different with it. So I mean, that's the homemade one. It does work pretty well. It doesn't quite work. I don't think it works as well as the small one with the finer wheel. That's just sort of my opinion, at least for this size of material. Let's go back to our finer wheel. Getting up with some colorful hands too, playing around making these tops today, because like I say, this is a lot of those markers are Crayola water-based markers. So if there's any moisture on your fingers, which there was today a couple times, I ended up with blue streaks going across my fingers. And squash our point down a little bit. This time, that was something I didn't do today. I was just bringing a live center up. This live center is actually fairly sharp. It will penetrate in if I push hard enough on it. So that's what I should have been doing with today. That way it gave me a ring in there to start with. So let's go back to our two bigger size knurling wheels. So there would be the difference between the two. This one is much coarser than that one. We'll see if we can show the difference between the two. They want to be hitting somewhere about center. See if I can get it to be right on that edge of that. That's the kind of the hard part, is I gotta try and line it up, because these will, especially on a surface like this, they want to sort of skate around on it, at least until it gets engaged and makes the impression. So that was the coarser. And the finer. And there's one that's even finer yet. This one here, I don't, probably should have just left this one on the shelf. This one is nothing more than like straight across lines, and that's really the embossing that it will give me. And it's not very, it won't be very deep. So I don't, to me, it doesn't necessarily do much for me. It's just that it's a very fine, sort of a very, very fine detail. So I'll highlight them, and I think we're gonna quit playing for the day. Because see that one, that last one, the straight across one, as you can see by the look on the camera, it really doesn't even show up, because it's such a, really just such a fine detail. So like I say, it's one that should have just stayed on the shelf, but I think if I remember right, I think it came as a set or something or other with that. But other than that, I think that's going to be a wrap for us for tonight. And it doesn't have to be a specific made for wood turning. They tell me any of the knurling tools will work. Probably some that are made for metalworking probably would work better, because they're probably a much harder steel. than what these are. Because they would be meant for knurling a piece of steel. That would probably be harder than like those there. I'm sure that a piece of steel or aluminum or whatever would be much harder than the tool itself. So it would not work so well. I don't know. Are you trying to tell me your knurling tool that you would use on your metal lathe is not sharp? I mean, these are not overly sharp. I mean, they're not really sharp to the touch. It is a fairly good point. I don't know. It's on a very heavy bar. Because it does take, that's kind of the surprising part of it. I mean, once you get them engaged so that they're not going to wander around, you do have to push pretty hard on them to get them to sink into the wood. And the more patient you are with it, you can get it to go deeper and deeper as you go. But who am I? This is kind of like a once a year kind of thing for me that I mess around with this. So I don't know. I should probably learn to do more and more of it. I could do that on some different stuff. Right. I think if you would, and I would assume the metalworking ones would be the same way. They're kind of like a little, I don't know what you want to call it. They're like a little pyramid. At least that's what they appear to look like to me. Well, my eyes are pretty old, but that's what I would consider them. But like I say, I don't, very limited knowledge when it comes to metalworking, so I don't really know. That got blurry. Let's back out a little bit. We're in a little too close, or it's got too much dust on the lens. Still looks blurry. That's dust. But that's going to be it for me this evening. I'm normally here Saturday evenings. It's my night to be here. I will not be here next Saturday evening because we are going to the Circus Olay on ice at the Hershey Stadium. And I think that's at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it will be 2 weeks till I come back. But stop back. We won't be making silly stuff like this. So do I. I've been wanting to go see. I'd like to go see the acrobatics show for the Circus Olay. But as my wife's usually pretty quick to tell me on something like that, you're just too cheap to pay the money to go see it. But this is each year for my parents for Christmas, rather than, they don't need anything. So I have a sister and a daughter, so the three of us get together and try and find some sort of a show or something along those lines to go do. And we go do it as a whole family. It'll be me and my sister and spouses and my daughter and her husband and our now granddaughter. So we'll go see the show and then probably maybe go for dinner either afterwards or before or something like that. So it'll be, 3/4 of a day or whatever. Spend time with the family, especially this year because This year has been rather goofy for us because I ended up, I guess it was like 2 weeks before Christmas, a little bit, maybe like, yeah, right around 2 weeks before Christmas. I made it the whole way through the pandemic, and I work for UPS, so I was exposed to the COVID virus who knows how many times in that course of that pandemic crap. But never got it. I got vaccinated once or twice. I guess just once. But this year, 2 weeks before Christmas, I ended up getting it and was off work. Well, 2 of the days, I come home early on a Thursday, and then I was at home Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I took off Sunday and Monday from work, and then because that's what the doctors now tell you. It's a 5-day quarantine, and then you should wear a mask for another 5 days or whatever, and then you're supposedly good to go. But that's right before Christmas, and my granddaughter is just a little over 3 months old, so the daughter's like, well, you two aren't going to be around them because, I come home with it, and a day and a half later, my wife had it, so we really we did Christmas and New Year's all at one time. So this is kind of going to be the family gathering to go to the show. So this stream is also being broadcast on YouTube as well. It's under Kapps Kreation under YouTube. So if you're interested, you can go back and watch it there. Of course, you can watch it on Twitch as well, but Twitch is kind of stingy. They only let it on there for a week. This is on there like forever on YouTube, and you'll find this would be number, did I see tonight? 42, something like that. So we've been at it for a while. I do a bunch of different things. I normally don't play around too much with this kind of stuff. I do a lot of bowls and such, but if you're watching on YouTube and you could hit the subscribe button, that would be great. Other than that, YouTube people, I will be back in about 2 weeks. So I can end that one. And then we'll see if we can find, there hasn't